Hey everyone, it's Alexander Robinson. Welcome to the channel. So this week we see the release of Godzilla Kong: The New Empire, the 5th film in the Monsterverse, and I'm excited for it. I have some reservations, which I mentioned in my trailer talk review a couple months back, but overall I am excited to see this movie. But I know there's going to be one theme when this movie comes out that is going to be prominent, and that's the comparisons some people will be making to this movie and Godzilla -1, which was released at the tail end of last year and recently became an Academy Award-winning movie, not just in the US with Best Visual Effects, but over in Japan because it's the second Godzilla movie to ever win the Japanese Academy Prize for Best Picture. Incredible. Anyway, in that trailer talk video I made a couple of months back, I mentioned that if you go into Godzilla Kong: The New Empire expecting Godzilla -1, then you are going to be radically disappointed by the outcome. And I want to take this time to elaborate on that point, because there's going to be a lot of people comparing the two movies when I think it's completely unfair to Godzilla Kong. As of recording this video, I myself have not seen the movie. In fact, the US premiere is currently happening at the Chinese Theater in Los Angeles. But you can tell from the trailers, and even from the previous installments of the Monsterverse, that this is going to be a radically different movie in terms of tone, in terms of the way it's made, than Godzilla -1. And I can even use Godzilla vs. Kong as a good frame of reference since Adam Wingard is directing this new one again. Godzilla vs. Kong is pretty much a monster rumble, pitting the king of the monsters against the 8th wonder of the world. And you basically go into that movie just to see the two monsters beat the crap out of each other, and at the end of the movie team up to fight Mechagodzilla. So it's pretty much a giant monster brawl movie, and I can enjoy it for what it is. But comparing it to Godzilla -1 is really not fair, because -1 is drastically different. It's a post-World War II drama dealing with PTSD, survivor's guilt. It's a movie more about its characters and how the human spirit can prevail against a massive disaster in the form of Godzilla. It's essentially an anti-war movie at the end of the day. It's very serious, and it's pretty much an indictment against the Japanese government in how they treated their soldiers during World War II. There's no way you can compare those two movies to each other, especially considering that Godzilla Kong: The New Empire looks to be a tag team battle in the same way Godzilla vs. Gigan and Godzilla vs. Megalon were, where we've got the king of the monsters and the 8th wonder of the world fighting an anorexic, balding orangutan and an ice dragon. So, yeah, they couldn't be any more different. Now, I need to make this perfectly clear. In me saying all this, I'm not saying you aren't allowed to criticize Godzilla Kong: The New Empire, because I'll tell you right now, if I see the movie and I think it's bad, I'll tell you straight up if it's bad or not. I'm just saying, in terms of comparing it to other Godzilla movies, you can't compare it to -1. You want a more reasonable comparison, just compare it to the other two movies that I mentioned, Gigan and Megalon from the 70s. That's a perfectly fair comparison, considering that Godzilla Kong seems to share a lot of similarities with these two movies, especially since it looks like it's going to be embracing the goofiness that Godzilla vs. Megalon did. I mean, Kong's got a power glove. If you've seen any of the new promotional footage, he throws Scar King into Godzilla, and then Godzilla whips him away with his tail. There's another shot where Kong is hopping on Godzilla's back as they're both running. I mean, there's no way that you can look at this movie and compare it to a serious, award-winning war drama. And this leads into another point of this conversation. While both movies do feature Godzilla, they portray the King of the Monsters very differently. In the Monsterverse, it's clear that Godzilla is more of the hero. He's the good monster, saving the Earth from other titans, but his portrayal isn't the same way as with the late Showa movies, where he's basically a superhero. It seems to be more in line with the 90s trilogy of Gamera movies. He protects the world, but that doesn't exactly mean that he's an ally towards humanity, because if humanity does something that endangers the world, Godzilla will turn on them in an instant. Whereas Godzilla in -1 is clearly the villain of the movie. He is a force of nature taking his vengeance out on all of humanity. Even though we were the ones that technically mutated him in -1, and by we I mean Americans, thanks to Operation Crossroads, Godzilla's pretty much like, I don't care if you're Japanese or American, I'm taking my vengeance out on all of you. So again, much like with the movies, these two incarnations of Godzilla just cannot be compared at all. Like, if you want a fair comparison to Godzilla in the Monsterverse, I already mentioned the Gamera movies, but I think more in the middle era of the Showa series, that's a better comparison. Final Wars Godzilla might be a better comparison. We'll see what happens in Godzilla Kong the New Empire, but I'm definitely picking up on a lot of Final Wars vibes in this movie. And as for -1 Godzilla, obviously we can compare him to the Godzilla from the 1954 film and Shin Godzilla, but also GMK is a good incarnation to compare the -1 Godzilla to. There's just definitely a lot going on with these two versions of Godzilla to where it's not fair to compare the movies. I know a lot of people will be doing this, and hopefully this is some sort of attempt to stop that from happening. I doubt that will happen considering how reactionary the internet can be, but I figured to just give my 2 cents on this point that I made in an earlier video. Again, this is not me saying it's not fair to criticize Godzilla Kong the New Empire. You can obviously prefer -1 to the Monsterverse films, and that's fine. And again, if Godzilla Kong is a bad movie, then I will say it's a bad movie. But you can't really compare these two. You can't say, well, in -1 they do this, whereas in Godzilla Kong they do this, because yeah, they're drastically different. And that's the thing with the Godzilla franchise. Throughout the 70 years of its existence, this is one of the few franchises that I've seen that can be multi-tonal. We all know that the original Godzilla is a very dark and very heavy-handed movie about the dangers of nuclear weapons. But as the series went on, some of the better movies in this franchise have tackled other subject matters, like the absurdity of the Japanese television industry, corporate greed, the theme of unity, which is common in a lot of Ishiro Honda's films, bullying, even though that movie, I think, botches that message, it is still there. There's pollution. There's Japan being smack dab between the United States and the Soviet Union during the Cold War. GMK is about younger Japanese generations forgetting about the atrocities that Japan has committed during World War II. Shin Godzilla is obviously about the Fukushima disaster. And -1 just recently is an indictment, as I said, about how Japan treated their soldiers during World War II, especially with a position that's as cruel and inhumane as kamikaze pilots. So Godzilla obviously can be about certain subject matters, and that's why this franchise has been able to stay in the public mindset for as long as it has. But then there are other movies that are just pure monster spectacle, and that's completely okay. It's okay if Godzilla Kong the New Empire is just that. After 70 years, I think it's pretty fair to say that Godzilla can be all of these. There are obviously going to be some bad Godzilla movies, and Godzilla Kong could easily be one of them. But if it's entertaining at the end of the day, then I think it's accomplished its goal, much like how Godzilla vs. Kong accomplished its goal 3 years ago. Since -1 came out less than half a year ago, and is still fresh in everyone's mind thanks to its Oscar win, it's obvious a lot of people will be thinking about it when they see Godzilla Kong the New Empire. And I'm not saying you shouldn't criticize Kong the New Empire, I'm just saying don't compare it to Godzilla -1 when the two movies are drastically different from each other. I hope you enjoyed what I had to say, and I hope you take this mindset into consideration when seeing Godzilla Kong the New Empire. I know a lot of you were expecting me to put out a review for Season 1 of Monarch Legacy of Monsters this week, but there's been a lot going on in my world outside of YouTube that I just didn't find the time to review this show. But I definitely want to. I want to review Monarch Legacy of Monsters, and even the Netflix series Skull Island, because I think both of them are pretty neat additions to the Monsterverse. For now, I want to know what you guys think about this topic. Do you agree with me that these two movies shouldn't be compared? Whatever the case may be, let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell button to get notifications. If you want to find me elsewhere on YouTube, you can check out my theme park and travel channel, Alexander Robinson Travel Channel, and follow me on Facebook, Instagram, Letterboxd, Threads. I'll see you guys in the next video, but until then, have a good day, and take care of yourselves.